Really proud of my team. We came together, got better as the season went on. Pushed this team really hard to believe in hard work, to identify themselves and measure their success through their hard work. And our improvement, whether it's defensively or rebounding, offensive execution, playing together as a team, you know, all those things became daily habits for us. But I think the reason why this team is good is because we have outstanding player leadership and we have high character kids. Absolute joy to be around this team. Whether we end the season with a win or a loss, the thing that I will miss the most is going to practice and preparing with this group every day. So really blessed, very fortunate to have a staff and a team that you love being around and working with every single day. And we got better as the season went on. So that's about it.
All right, thanks, Coach. We'll start with questions. First up, Alex Shellman. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Coach. My name is Alex Eshelman. I'm a sports reporter for ABC Fox Montana here in Butte. And I'm sure you weren't expecting to get a question asked about Butte, Montana, but what are some of the things that you learned during your time at Montana Tech that you've taken all the way to the Final Four?
Well, hello. You're right. I didn't expect to. I don't think I've ever had a question on one of these deals from Butte, Montana. But St. James Hospital is where Kellen and Lauren were born, 1981 and 1985. When I got to Butte, I think I was 24 years old. Those people just were nice to me and caring. When we got there, we didn't have any children. It was just she and I. We loaded a U-Haul truck from East Lansing. We didn't have much, but we threw everything in the back of a U-Haul truck and drove from East Lansing to Butte. The first person that befriended us was Vic Burt. He will go down as one of my all-time heroes. I was on a stipend, not a salary. I got $1,000. That hit me. The reality of that hit me when the financial guy said, "Do you want that $100 for 10 months or do you want it all up front?" I said, "Wow, let's go ahead and get it up front so at least I can get to look at it." I think 2 or 3 weeks later, Vic Burt came and said that there was a job that opened up in the married student housing. They needed a supervisor, someone that would clean the apartments when people checked out and someone checked in, but they wouldn't pay you any money, but you could live rent free. Well, that was huge for Karen and I, so because we didn't really have much then. And but you know, the thing that it taught us more than anything was a sense of community, how a community can support a team. They didn't know me, and I didn't know them, but of all the places I've been, they probably left the biggest impression on me. My heart is probably more Montana Tech because they were unconditional. You know, we lost and we won, and the love was the same both ways, and that's something I'll never forget.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, we'll go Greg Bailey, KTRK. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Kelvin, after your win over Oregon State, Dejan said to us something really interesting. He said when they tied it, we knew that we could outwork them and we knew that we would make plays to win the game. Where does that belief come from, and how powerful is that for this group when it's tight down the stretch and they know that they're going to make plays to win?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that's responsible for that. You know, the people that don't get enough credit is our staff. It starts with Kellen. Kellen does an incredible job of leading this program with me. He's almost like an associate head coach. Our guys really believe in him. Quantus, the same way. He works with all the guards. Kellen works mostly with the post. Alvin assists him. And all three of those guys care more about our players than they do winning. And our kids understand that, and they recognize that. When people have a genuine care for you and your welfare, that comes about in many ways. Alan Bishop, our strength coach, is the best I've been around, loves our players. Our athletic trainer has proven himself this year to be someone we just can't do without. But I think it starts with the players understanding that we love them and we care for them, and they're the most important thing to us. We don't have to be their life, but they are our life 24/7. We're dedicated to our players. And then I think it starts with our work ethic and practice. There's different levels of work. There's different levels of competition, playing hard, competing. But one of the things that we try to get our kids to do, and we're not perfect. I'm sure there's a lot of systems better than ours, but our system is our system. Is we teach our kids the difference between playing hard versus competing, and we hold them accountable to that. If we work on rebounding, then we're not just going through 10 minutes of practice. 10 minutes is getting better at rebounding, and our kids believe in that. They believe in the work they've put in. They believe in the results, and when we get in tight moments, they believe that those results and that work will come through for them.
All right, we'll go John Warner.
Yeah, Kelvin, this is John Warner at the Waco Tribune Herald. Mark Vital is sometimes overlooked among all the other guys Baylor has, but what do you like about him when you see him as a coach?
Who's that?
Mark Vital.
Oh, yeah, Vital. They got so many dynamic players. Most teams don't have you bring this guy's name up. If he were on most teams, he'd be their best player. He would certainly be their most dynamic player. I love him. I mean, the way we play and the way we coach and the way we run our program, he would be a perfect fit. He would be a perfect fit for us. Everybody needs somebody that's kind of an enforcer. The first person I remember that people talked about as an enforcer was Maurice Lucas when he played with Bill Walton in the Portland Trailblazers in 1977. I didn't know what that was, but everybody kind of copied that going forward. Luke Jackson with the 76ers, even before that probably, with Wilt Chamberlain and Billy Cunningham and those guys. But that's what Mark Vital is. He is the enforcer. He's I don't know what his true height is, but he plays about 6'10" and 250. Big heart, great body, tough to block out. Doesn't shoot it, but doesn't need to. Not shooting it or need shots is probably the perfect mix for that team. He's kind of an egg that binds them. It's like making a cake. He's the eggs in it. You don't see him on the outside a lot, but on the inside, he's the guy that holds them together.
Okay, Bill Roden, please unmute yourself.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, could you talk about your dad, Kelvin? Just about I know I've read just how important he was in your life, and just how he was sort of the source of your strength and courage, things like that. And just growing up, how he became somebody who just, made you a lot of who you are now.
Well, even to this day, Bill, if you were to go back to Pembroke, North Carolina, he is a much bigger. He passed away in February of 2014, but he was a rock and a foundation piece for that community. You know, we're a non-recognized, non-federally recognized Native American tribe in southeastern North Carolina that's fought prejudice and racism our entire lives. When I was raised in Pembroke, that was a big source of pride, is that we stayed with each other. We kind of took care of each other. The KKK was huge in that area. That's a vivid, very clear memory for me. And then there's history with the KKK, with our tribe and my father and a bunch of his friends. If you go back to I think it was 1957, and Google Life magazine, Lumbees and the KKK, you can read the story about my father and a bunch of his friends going to break up a KKK rally. When the guy that shot the light out that the KKK had there as a rally was a friend of my family, Mr. Sim Oxendine. I know his son, Rodney. Those were all people I grew up with. Tough people, though. Tough people. Triracial community, but ambitious people, achievers, people that the president of the university that I graduated from, the chancellor, was a high school classmate of mine. My best friend is a district attorney in a county in North Carolina. A lot of guys that went on to do well. I'm very, very proud of Pembroke, very proud to be part of Lumbee Nation. I'm very proud of my father. My son, Kellen, named his son, Kylan, middle name is Ned, Kylan Ned. That was my dad's nickname. His name was John Willie Sampson. And high school coach, came up during segregation. I remember going to high school clinics with him, Bill. And all the minority coaches had to sit upstairs in metal folding chairs, and all the white coaches sat down in the balcony in the theater chairs. Didn't think much of it. That's just the way it was back then in the mid 60s. My father had a 9-month contract. The other 3 months, he sold World Book Encyclopedia. He sold Lincoln Life Insurance. He taught driver's ed, and he worked at the tobacco market. Tobacco market was where I realized where I was living. Was when you went to the bathroom, there was 3 different bathrooms, white, colored, and others. And then you went to the water fountain, which was an important part of that tobacco market because it's so hot, dusty. Is white, colored, and other. You know, it was very divided, very racist, but we survived and we achieved. And I think my dad's reputation was somebody that you looked up to. He was the coach. He drove a 1963 Falcon. He could fit 10 kids in there. I know because he would take them home after practice. A lot of them lived in the country, so after practice they didn't have ways home, but he'd always take them home. So that's pretty good person to have as a role model and a hero growing up.
Okay, we'll go Billy Witz.
Hi, Kelvin. This is Billy Witz with the New York Times. You know, I wonder if you could describe just going back to Washington State and even Montana Tech, I'm sure you have different types of players with different skill sets, from year to year. But are there traits that you want to have in your teams? And I wonder if you can describe those and maybe get into the foundation of where those beliefs come from.
I like kids that are that want to be coached, that want to get better. I don't necessarily like kids that or want to coach kids that don't want to get better. You know, when I watch a kid, I look for a few things, intangibles. One of my favorite players was Ernie Abercrombie, who I coached at Oklahoma. He was about 6'3.5", and he weighed about 245. I remember playing Mississippi State when he had Eric Dampier. They had a 6'8" three-man, and I think Russell Wilson was the four-man's name. But Ernie had 25 points and 22 rebounds. And when I went to recruit Ernie, he was, you know, kind of an overweight point guard at Weatherford Junior College. I actually went to see the center on that team, but he didn't speak English well enough to get into school. But I saw the overweight point guard while I went to see him, and I said, "Who's recruiting him?" And the junior college coach said, "Well, right now, Wayland Baptist." So I said, "Well, I want to recruit him too. I like him." You know, so he was going to go to Washington State, but when I left Washington State to go to Oklahoma, he went with me there and wound up starting for 2 years. We beat Kansas when they were #1 in the nation. He made 1 3 the whole year. And it was that night with about 35, 40 something seconds to go to put us up 2. And we wound up winning. But there was something about him. Don't know how to describe it. Intangibles, toughness, could coach him, humble, tough, wasn't a blue blood, kind of had a chip on his shoulder. Probably kind of like me in some ways. And I like kids like that.
Okay, Brian Smith, Houston Chronicle.
Hey, Kelvin, Brian Smith, Houston Chronicle. You've discussed Montana Tech and your family, but you're back in Indiana, and I'm sure you get tired of even having to deal with this question. But Indiana obviously shaped you as well. That program, you and this program have come so far since then. How do you look back at that ending, that period, and how that eventually shaped you to where you are right now as a head coach and as a program builder?
I don't really. There's nothing about that I have any interest in discussing. That's in my rearview mirror. I had my wife said everything that has happened to us, there's always been a silver lining. And the silver lining was the relationships that I built in the NBA, the lessons I learned. It made me a better coach, made me a better person. So lucky that Greg Popovich was one of my best friends. So fortunate that I got to work with a brilliant tactician teacher like Scott Skiles, Daryl Morey, and Kevin McHale at Houston. All those things. Had I not gone through those things, I don't think I would be in a position to help the players that I have now, and just as importantly, help the assistant coaches, because I want those guys to go on to become head coaches, and the things that they're learning from me that I've learned from others will help them as they go forward.
Okay, we'll go one more. Randy from KPRC TV.
Hey, Kelvin, if you don't mind talking about the confidence you've continued to see in Marcus Sasser and the development of his game since you got him. I think you've considered him one of your best shooters, if not the best. He's been able to kind of snap out of that slump, but can you discuss just how his game has developed under you and your staff?
Well, Marcus had to learn how to play within himself. And I think there's a reckoning when a kid comes into our program. There's always a reckoning between who he thinks he is, who other people think he is, and the truth. And we tell him the truth. Now, Marcus is not very athletic. So if you're not very athletic, that means that you've got to learn to play and be efficient without being able to put your chest on the rim or out quick or outrun people. You've got to be a little bit more efficient. So he had to learn how to do that. You know, there was a time there when Marcus was struggling shooting. He was, and we were, you know, you don't want to take a kid's confidence away, but at the same time, he's got to play within the boundaries of the team. You know, we give our kids freedom, but the thing I tell them about freedom is that everybody in prison at one point had freedom too. Don't abuse it. It's, you know, my eyes are my eyes. What I see through my lens is based on what's best for the team. The thing that Marcus has learned to do, a good example was the Rutgers game. You know, he couldn't throw it in the ocean if he's standing on shore, but he made 2 great defensive plays and hit 2 critical free throws. So we don't base our kids' play on whether their shot goes in. We base their play on their contribution to the team winning. And that's what every kid that comes in this program has to learn, how to help us win games. You know, you're pretty shallow as a basketball evaluator if you think a player's playing good based on whether he's shooting well. I've had some guys play horrible that shot great. I've had some guys play tremendous that couldn't make a shot. Marcus is a great example of that against Rutgers, and he had to learn to get there.